We're okay with that.
You're admitted.
Uh-huh.
You're admitted.
So we're
All
just
right.
talking right before the live stream that Jonathan, ENFJ preferences. It's like an exercise of restraint, not to see people ready to join a Zoom call and have to restrain himself not to admit just by seeing the little blue button pop up.
I've done that. The worst though is when we're like already in a meeting and then we have them back to back and somebody shows up and I just automatically hit admit and now they're in the wrong meeting and then I have to kick them out.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm being rude.
And there's no way to tell them. It's just like they just got deployed out and it's like, I hope they understand.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Personality Quest, part of Personality Hacker Plus membership. Joel Mark Witt, Antonia Dodge, Jonathan Harden. Producing today is Karina Gunyon. It's April 14th, 2024. Tomorrow, officially here in the United States, is tax day.
Oh,
And this week on the podcast and in today's conversation, we're going to talk about the ENFP personality and how to show yourself love. I think that one of the steps would be just to take off tax day, sleep in, and do some self-care for us that are wired like myself, like ENFPs, because it's probably one of the dreadest days of the year for my personality type. I would assume, at least for me personally. I can speak for myself.
I only remember because you mention it all the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't even register.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah,
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if you mention it because you know deep down you're most likely to forget it, so you have to almost like constantly like
Yes.
remind yourself because otherwise you know it's going to be the death of you.
Yes. Yes. And it's just I don't mind paying taxes. It's all the paperwork you have to file in order to pay taxes. That's the nightmare in my mind. Like I don't like the money's not that problem. It's all the detail.
Yeah.
All the extra.
Well, we were talking about how it's like, it feels like the government's like, we make the laws and you figure out how to do the laws.
It's like
That's what we already did our job, right? We made the law. So that was our job. And your job is to figure it all out on your side. And it's like, can you stop making laws so we can figure out the ones that were already made? Like we're just trying to figure those ones out. Yeah.
We're looking to reinstate our nursing licenses, and it's a lot of the same thing. It's just like, here's the paperwork. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need this.
And I mean, it's pretty transparent that the reason why there's so many laws, particularly contradictory ones and terrible systems, is because it's like you have to justify your existence. Like I'm a lawmaker, right? That's my job. So if I make laws, then I have to keep making them in order to justify my position as a lawmaker, right? I got to do something. It's like,
It's in the job description.
Yeah, it's in the job description. I make the laws. So, so here are some more laws. And it's like, I'll just put these over here, I guess. And that's how I do it. I just go, oh, those are over there. And then I just don't think about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us today, we're going to be talking about the ENFP personality type. I personally think it's the best of all the 16 personality types. I might be biased with ENFP preferences myself, but I think it's a pretty cool type regardless. We're going to watch a short clip from our podcast talking about ENFP self-love and discuss it as a membership. You should be part of it. We're glad you're here on the live stream.
Yes, welcome. You're supposed to think that, actually. It's not wrong. Isabel Briggs-Myers called it type patriotism. And we're all supposed to have type patriotism. And in fact, when somebody talks about how they're like, I worship that other type, I always start wondering if they actually are that type and they just haven't given themselves permission to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go. That's interesting.
Yeah, because our type is the best, right?
Yes.
I think I may have done that. Antonia. I think ENFJs were like this, like amazing, like leaders and just could do no wrong. And I was like, well, I just have to be an ENFP because they're not as great as ENFJs.
Yeah.
That's right.
By the way, I see a few members in the Personality Plus with your hands raised. I would love to hear from people. We're going to watch the clip first. When we come back, we're going to be able to hear from people. So please hang tight. I don't want to lose your energy and enthusiasm out of the gate. Please don't go anywhere. We still want to talk with you and all that. And if you're understanding, what are you talking to, Joel? I'm here in live stream watching. Well, we're actually broadcasting from Zoom. We've got an entire group of members and some guests today. We've invited some ENFPs to come as guests from our community to tune into the Personality Plus call, the live call. We call this a Quest call. Every week we gather Sunday mornings, 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. We watch a short clip from the Personality Hacker podcast that week, and then we talk about it. We see if we can apply it to our lives, create an understanding around it, go a little deeper, talk about some of the concepts and what we can learn from them. Because it's one thing just to tune into theory and understanding, but the other thing is, how do we actually create behavior change? How do we apply this to our lives? And that's what we do together on Sunday mornings as part of this membership.
Yeah.
All right.
And Bill in our call doesn't just have Bill ENFP. He has ENFP exclamation point.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Which is fantastic.
That's right. He is
ENFP plus.
enthusiastically ENFP plus.
ENFP plus.
That's right.
All the cool kids are doing it.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
So, can I say why I'm in a good mood?
Sure.
All right.
I suppose.
So I know we're supposed to be talking about ENFPs, and we
Oh,
can't.
this is gonna make me feel bad. You're gonna
No.
humiliate me live on camera.
Oh, is this humiliating?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, it's like, oh man. No,
Really?
you go ahead and say it now. I've already pre-humiliated myself. It's all good.
There you go. Good job, Joel.
Well, I got taken on a date last night.
That's not the humiliating part. That's the good part.
That's the good part, right? And it was fabulous. And we didn't talk about business.
That's the humiliating part. I'm like, I can't believe I do this all the time.
That's right. All right. We talked about relationships.
Wow.
That's right.
Awesome.
So my extroverted feeling tank feels full now.
Yes.
We talked about relationships the entire time. There was like nary a business thing that was there. So I'm like, I feel pretty good. So my ENFP treated me well last night.
It's one of those things, and Jonathan, you probably know this, when you've been married for a while and you do a lot of things together, you create resource together and you work together, and it ends up sometimes business and the business of life becomes, hey, at least I'm not taking you to Lowe's on a date, right? We're not going to shop for our home couch.
Yeah,
That's what we did this week. I took Ellen to Lowe's.
That's right.
I bought her all these plants. I was like, I'll take care of your introverted sensing. Here we go.
Right. Here's a $1.50 hot dog and a smack on the butt. I'll let you sit on the riding lawnmower and pretend you're going.
Wow.
Those are the kind that I'm used to too.
Date ideas.
Quick.
We're gonna try it.
What Antonia thinks is a great date. Let's go.
That's your quest for the week.
That's right. So that's your quest for the week. The reason why I'm mentioning that, by the way, though, is I realized that even though extroverted feeling, or what we call harmony, is my 10-year-old or tertiary function, I love talking about relationships. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And I'm like, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that TJs or FPs can't enjoy talking about relationships, and I'm sure people of all types enjoy it, but I realized how missing it was. I'm like, I think I just need more gossip in my life.
Yeah.
I do.
Just need more gossip.
It's like a need of mine. I need to sit with a margarita and just kind of gossip about stuff, right? And talk about relationships and people and all that stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's a can I need to not be kicking eternally into the future, because I was surprisingly now one night every once in a while is probably my fill. I'm probably good there, but I do need it. And I think that's the thing we need to understand about our 10-year-old tertiary function.
Yeah.
If we don't get any of it, we're like, ooh, I'm missing something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my aha for last night.
That's fantastic. I feel that way about jet skis.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
what?
only need
enough jet skiing.
Yeah, just enough to go 80 miles an hour down the lake, hopefully turn over and fly out. Yeah.
Right. Why am I not doing this more often?
Wait, have you water skied? Have you jet skied before? Wait, what is it? A jet ski is where it's like a motorcycle you sit on. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You catch
those
the
are fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's really fun to do with two people because you can create the wakes together and then ride each other's wakes. So
I have to do this. This sounds really fun. I haven't done this yet.
Wear sunscreen.
Yeah. Because you're getting it from both sides, right? You're getting it from up and you're getting it from the reflection. You just come back burnt like a crisp.
Yeah. And 5 hours goes by so quickly and you realize.
Yeah.
Dude, that sounds fun. I got to do this. I mean, I've seen it done. I don't, why have I not done this? Why is instant jet skiing not on the top of my list? I don't know. I got to get this.
Table Rock Lake. Let's do it.
Maybe it's because I live in Pennsylvania and we don't have a lot of jet skiing here. We have to go south to the warmer climates and all that. All right. I think it's time to tune into our clip for this week. So we're going to look at a clip from the most recent podcast talking about ENFP self-love, how to show your self-love as an ENFP. We talked about this to the ENFP directly. We talked about this and walked through the CAR model from the ENFP owner's manual. We talked about different expectations and removing blocks that create a good relationship with yourself, because that's a channel of self-love. But then we also talked about a principle that the other 15 types, all y'all that aren't ENFPs like myself and the ENFPs that are here on this membership call, what can you all learn from ENFP self-love? So we also tune into that in this clip as well. So let's watch this. We're going to come back as a group. We're going to go into small breakouts and we're going to talk a little bit more and unpack this. So journal prompts a little later, and then a quest for the week, something to go test out in the real world. So we'll see everybody right after this quest clip.
So let's start with the first function. Let's start with the driver, or what's called extroverted intuition or exploration. And our recommendation is, in order to remove an obstruction to feeling self-love, have a high expectation for yourself in this function. And as you mentioned, Joel, if we don't have high enough expectations in the things that we are naturally talented in and the things that we have a tendency to build skill in, the reason why that creates an obstruction to self-love is because we experience disappointment in ourselves. We know we can be doing better. That's what you just said. And so it's important in our greatest strengths and talents to have a high expectation of ourselves, so that we're not disappointed in our performance, not thinking, I wish I was doing better. I wish I was more on purpose. I wish I was bringing my gifts to the world. When we have high expectations in these functions, it means that we are adding skill development to talent. And now we're manifesting the best of ourselves.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to have high expectations in extroverted intuition or exploration for an ENFP? Well, the first thing is seeing beyond the initial aha of a pattern and diving deeper into it, really studying it. There's a phrase that has become pretty popular, or at least it was, 10 years ago when I first heard it, which is, don't believe everything you think. And I've been thinking about this phrase a lot because as somebody, I have ENTP preferences, so I use a function called introverted thinking or accuracy. And not believing everything I think is such a game changer for me. It's when I think something, when I believe I've come to a conclusion, but it's like the first time I've really thought about it, I haven't come to a conclusion, right? And if I immediately attach to the first thing I thought, the first opinion I came to, now I haven't really processed that thought. I haven't really figured out how I really think about it and brought in other material and done the math around it. And so I've cut myself off at the beginning. I've created a conclusion from what is actually a starting point. And that's the same, I would say that same principle applies to patterning for extroverted intuition or exploration. The patterns come quickly. They come really fast.
Yeah.
But don't believe every pattern that you think, right? Like, don't believe that first initial. We can use our gut instincts. We can definitely have a high degree of certainty in them. But having a high expectation for this function doesn't mean that we just allow ahas to strike us. It means that we study those ahas. We take a moment to think about it. We take a moment to dive a little deeper and understand maybe the systems that live underneath that, or the whys of it, or the how of it. Like, we go deeper in inquiry around our insights. And so in that way, we build muscles to have higher quality insights in the future. Our ahas become better quality when we do more inquiry around them, as opposed to just going, we make a joke that for extroverted intuition or exploration, one's a pattern, right? The old adage is 3 is a pattern, but for this intuition, it's like one's a pattern. The first time you see something, you form a pattern on it. Well, that's not high quality patterning. And yet, because it is such a high degree of certainty for us, we'll believe the first pattern. So having high expectations means that we don't just believe our patterning from that first initial insight, that we go a little further. We figure out why it was a pattern for us. We see sort of the guts of it. And then that way we're building more skill, because we then understand why that pattern holds water, all right? Why there's some legs underneath the pattern.
If you're a good communicator as an ENFP and you have a persuasive nature, this can be very insidious, because you probably are one of the few people in your world doing this, patterning that quickly. And if you're a good communicator and you can spot what's going on and you get rewarded for that, the speed of it and the quick patterning, especially if like your job rewards it, your scholastic or education system that you're in rewards it, or your family or your partnership, whatever system you're in rewards that speed of quick patterning and then giving the result to somebody. Like, thanks so much. That was really helpful. You're like, ooh, that's the value I give. There's not a lot of pressure on you to maybe grow deeper or go deeper with it. So it's insidious if you're getting rewarded for it. And often ENFPs are. I think most ENFPs, you get rewarded for it in a very utility way. I mean, there's pain and kind of like it gets rejected in other ways, but often you are in a context usually where you can show up with this, even just in the world in large. And yeah, I think there's a deeper version of it. There's a little bit more to it than just a quick hit That's what's going on, and then moving on. Like it's like drive-by intuition. Like boom, boom, boom. There's the intuition, and it's go on down the road. It's no, stay with it. Park the car, get out, be with your intuition in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think ENFPs are usually pretty good at impressing other people.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the nice things about having ENFP preferences is that you're usually pretty good at talking. You're usually pretty good at like kind of blowing people away.
You can get the job.
Right, exactly.
Can you do the job?
Yes.
That's an ENFP thing.
That's right. That's exactly it. And so not just living off of the ability to be impressive, not just living off of your ability to pull rabbits out of hats and have an 11th hour experience. You actually, in some ways, you need to have enough of those so that you can really rely on your intuition. You can learn that you can rely on it. And I think that when extroverted intuition or exploration becomes its highest order, right? Like the highest order version of it, I think it can channel almost like you're downloading patterns from the universe and you don't even know where they came from.
Yeah.
And you're doing that as you're talking in real time.
Yeah.
I do believe that that's a possibility. And the only way that an ENFP learns how to channel is by putting themselves in situations where they've had to rely on their intuition in real time and watch themselves do it. But you don't get there through just making assumptions early on. You don't get there through just kind of like being able to BS your way through something, right? To be able to be impressive. You get there by understanding the mechanisms that you're using to make those patterns, or like really kind of diving further into it. So I think the first thing that people with ENFP preferences need to do is set higher expectations for their driver function.
Yeah.
They need to get better at using this. They need to build skill on top of talent.
I think the other element of this, that's the one ENFP that can quickly pattern impress. I think there's another version of ENFP that's a little more reserved, and this ENFP is less likely to play in their intuition or put it on the footing they need. Like they have a lot of parameters around it. For example, being imaginative in the real world or exploratory in the real world. Well, that's insecure because, well, is that going to be accepted, or are people going to be like judging me for that? I think some ENFPs struggle with being able to let it loose, let the weirdness come out, right? Oh, I don't want to be too weird. I got to throttle this. Again, depending on your context, you might have been trained this way. Maybe at a parent or a context of education that was like, it kept tamping that down. We've met a lot of ENFPs in the state. And you kind of like, you're not allowing the full expression of this, the full weirdness expression of it. And so a throttle, and I think building skill is to give yourself opportunities to have those moments more.
Yeah.
Right. Have the conversations you need to have the exploratory kind of weirdness come out a little bit more. So let's tune into what you other 15 people, types can learn from us ENFPs. What's some lessons? Before we do that, let's just do a quick review. We've talked about the ENFP personality, and we talked about the CAR model that comes from our ENFP owner's manual. And the owner's manual goes way deep into some of the concepts we've been talking about in that CAR model. But the CAR model talks about the driver of exploration, extroverted intuition, the co-pilot of authenticity, introverted feeling. Those are the two strongest and highest expected parts of you, right, as an ENFP. Sitting behind the co-pilot is that 10-year-old of effectiveness, extroverted thinking, and then behind the driver is the 3-year-old of introverted sensing, or what we've called memory. And those are more challenging, and they should have proper or reasonable expectations for both of those parts of yourself. So we talked about the expectation of all of those cognitive functions. Now, what is something that we can tune into from an ENFP that's doing well, that is showing themselves love, has removed all the obstructions and has good expectations in place? They have a good relationship with themselves, and they're performing well in life. They're doing well, and they can send and receive love from themselves.
Yeah.
What's a lesson that the rest of y'all can learn from us in that?
Good question. So an ENFP that is consistently showing themselves love and receiving that love. So has a good relationship to self, excuse me, that they've earned.
It's contagious. The frog in your throat is contagious.
I know. What'd you do? You gave it to me, huh? What we see is, I'm gonna call it something weird, but I called the ENTP one something weird too. I'm gonna call it a visionary closer. Right. So what is a closer? A closer is somebody that completes the job, closes the loop, right? And it's not uncommon.
Finishes strong.
finishes strong. That's
Yeah.
right. It's not uncommon for people with ENFP preferences to be quite visionary, right? They see the future possibilities. They see how things could be different. There's a disruptive part of them that just wants to disrupt the status quo and create a different, maybe better future. So there's usually a visionary aspect to an ENFP, but there's not always that closing part. And oftentimes when an ENFP needs to close loops and be more responsible, sometimes they lose a little of that intuition. It's like they're not allowed to be innovative. They're not allowed to be visionary. So when an ENFP has figured out how to spin those coins, right? How to transcend some of this and remove the obstacles and obstructions to feeling self-love, you see them have both qualities. They marry both the visionary aspect and the ability to close loops. So you've got somebody who sees this vision of the future. It doesn't have to be a save the world vision. It can just be something that they can build and make happen. A vision for their family, a vision for a business, a vision for something in their world.
A movie they want to make.
Exactly.
Whatever it might be.
Right. A project that they want to manifest. And with the discipline and dedication, with the patience that comes along with integrating introverted sensing or memory, with the ability to organize and prioritize that comes along with the extroverted thinking or effectiveness, but also that innovation plus the drive that comes from introverted feeling and authenticity. All of that allows the ENFP to still have those visions, but have reasonable ones that are that they're able to manifest, ones that aren't too big of a pull, one that doesn't burn them out, one that is in alignment with their values and what's important to them and who they see themselves at, and with some patience and understanding that things happen over time, right? Incrementally over time, which is something that introverted sensing or memory reminds them of, that things don't just happen overnight, that it takes some patience, it takes some follow through, it takes some consistency. And with all of that, you get somebody who can show the world how to have a vision, but then also to be creative, be innovative, see outside the box, but also have the discipline to be able to make it happen and to finish strong.
Yeah, that resonates a lot. And I think that the co-pilot of authenticity is the big lever here in a lot of it, because what it really means is the quick hit and the excitement of a new idea can create a lot of initial motivation. But you need something that's like a burning ember that when you don't feel good and you got to get up early and work at this thing, or it doesn't feel as, exciting anymore, you're able to continue the sustainable movement. I don't think that's going to come from a routine, like only. Like you can use a routine to help support you, but the drive has to be a really deep inner drive of this matters to me as an ENFP. This outcome, this vision I had that I got really excited at the beginning, the going's getting tough right now. This is hard in the middle of it or near the end of it to finish strong, to close it out like you're talking about. But there's a satisfaction in staying strong with the conviction or the motivation or the pull that part of you has, that no, this is the right choice. I'm still on the right path. Mm-hmm. And it requires you check in early when you feel the excitement to say, is this the right choice? Because that excitement can override that resonance or the core value or of motivation you might have as an ENFP. So you have to really throttle that for a second. Go, is this really what I want? Is this really what drives me? Is this really the outcome I desire? And if it is, I think you can connect to that, and that can pull you along to be that visionary closer.
Yeah. So
you have the idea, but then you have to have the fire along with the support of both, like you said, extroverted thinking and introverted sensing, effectiveness and memory to support that drive. And so that's why the co-pilot is so important for ENFPs.
Well, and you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Right. That's part of that ember is I believe that I believe that I'm capable of doing this, but I believe it's right. Like it's personal to me. So I believe in myself, and I'm going to pull from the times in the past that I watched myself overcome obstacles and get through the less rewarding middle or end. I know I can do it. I've seen myself do it, and I believe in myself.
Yeah.
And so that's a person who can finish strong.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Personality Quest, part of the Personality Hacker Plus membership. Joel Mark Witt, Antonia Dodge here with Jonathan Harden. Producing today is Karina Gunyon, talking about ENFPs and ENFP self-love. We watched a short clip from the upcoming Personality Hacker podcast, where we go way deeper into how ENFPs can show themselves love. We go through the car model from the owner's manual of ENFP, deep dive. But we saw a clip there where we drew a lesson out that all of us could tune into. This idea of visionary closer, having a vision, but being able to finish strong. And that's not typically applied to ENFPs, I think, in like the stereotypes, right? We don't typically see ENFPs that way in the wild as a culture, I would say.
Well, and I don't think ENFPs see themselves that way very often either.
Yeah.
Like this idea, and that's, I think that's part of what we're trying to point out in the series is that sometimes while diagnosing our best fit type can be extremely liberating, and it can help explain a whole bunch of stuff that, like, you know, maybe things that were strengths that the world told us were weaknesses or vice versa. It can be really liberating to get that information, but it can also sometimes give us a get out of jail free card, right? It's like, oh, I'm a perceiver. I don't finish things. And it's like, well, all right, but I'm not sure why you get out of that human experience, right?
Yeah.
And I say that as a fellow perceiver. So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to show an angle of like, well, what happens if you integrate the other side? All right. What happens if you're a person who's as interested in closing a loop as opening a loop? And what happens when you're able to finish strong? And I think this is particularly for people with EP preferences, all 4 of the EP types. There's a tendency to start projects and not complete them. And then other people, if the project was a good one, other people reap the rewards.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get to pluck the fruit, right? When it becomes ripe, because you're already onto something else. And so the ability to finish strong, I think I think it's important. Yeah.
Almost sounds like the folklore tale of Johnny Appleseed, like just going across the country, seeding all these apple trees, but never actually knowing if the rewards get claimed by anyone. Now, but they probably do, like in that story, like people had the apple tree orchards if they grew up, but I can see how like having the vision for planting millions and millions of apple trees, but not having the closing capacity of ensuring that the final product gets made. I think the thing too I really like about this series is how when you come into type, you discover your type, like you said, it's liberating. But then, one thing I love about Personality Hacker is it just doesn't require you to stay where you're at. Like there comes a point in your personality journey where you realize, whoa, there's a whole side of me that I am not familiar with. I don't really resonate with. It doesn't feel like me, but it is very much me. And so I really like the hinging of these titles, visionary closer for ENFP, you know, having the vision, but getting things done.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, and there are so many, what comes along with the idea of I'm going to start closing projects, not just starting them, is that you become a lot more careful about which ones you start.
Yep.
Like, it's like, okay, if I'm gonna have to see this one to the end, maybe I should care about this more than just the quick hit of dopamine of the novelty of it. It needs to be something that's a little more personal to me, not just it was like an exciting idea. And then I think that also brings with it because part of opening a loop and starting, and particularly for people with ENP preferences, is selling the idea to other people to get them on board, right? Joel always talks about collecting the resources, right? I collected all the resources. Okay, now somebody else needs to be doing something with it. And so you talk all these people into like being collected and bringing their whatever they're bringing to the situation. And then it peters out, and now people are disappointed, or, you know, you throw the ball over to them and now it's their responsibility to finish it, but they weren't part of the starting. So they weren't maybe not 100% sure what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so because of that, there ends up being tons and tons and tons of false starts. And if a person with ENFP preferences didn't really care about it that much to begin with, maybe they just kind of shrug and they go, okay, well, I guess that one didn't work out. But a collection of resources that don't go anywhere can create disappointment. It's almost like when you gather energy together, you kind of have to shape it into something. Otherwise, there's opportunity cost. That energy could have been applied to something else that could have been shaped. And so you end up creating kind of a bad taste in people's mouths, or a bad taste in your own mouth.
Yeah.
And so when you require yourself to see something through and go, okay, it's actually my responsibility to get to the end, I might need to be a little bit more judicious about what I start. And that now creates an added element of responsibility, not just to the self, but also to others, right? To like to the energies you're collecting for this thing. And so it requires more discretion, more judiciousness at the beginning. But then because you cared about it, because that was something that you were willing to see to the end, now you have the ability to reap the rewards at the end, get return on investment, but also make everybody a little happier because there's no opportunity cost. You were the opportunity and you saw it through, and now the opportunity bore fruit if it can. Like, I'm not saying that that's a guarantee. Obviously, time and circumstance come into everything. But for the most part, something that is being stewarded has a lot better idea of getting to the end than something that's been abandoned. So there's a sense of that responsibility means that like collected resources are now put to good use. And so everything just becomes a little better, right? And it was something you cared about. So yeah, so I think that piece of it of for EP types, and I say this as a fellow, EP, I have ENTP preferences.
Yeah.
That part of the stereotype of we start things but we don't finish them, I think it's not bad to know that we're pre-wired that way. It explains a lot of stuff and go, oh, okay, that explains like all those decades, right? Like that explains 40 years, right, of experience. So it's like, that's nice. But at the same time, if we stop there, like the point of the learning isn't to validate and sanction and, and to go, okay, well, I guess that's just how it is. It's to go, okay, this is something that comes along with a lot of other benefits. And I can actually take those benefits, but I can also, figure out a way to, not every time, but the times that matter, the times that count, be able to see something all the way through. Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think like really you're loving yourself as an ENFP by believing, oh no, and I'm a closer. I'm not just the one who comes up with the visions and the opportunities and the resource, but also I see it through to the end. And you end up not getting that bad taste in your mouth, but that wonderful fulfillment. And that that action of believing that thing about yourself really removes the barrier of love. And then you find yourself whole, complete, actually loving yourself. And the same reason that if you love yourself, you'll actually take care of yourself. And we are loving ourselves when we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think so in the episode we talk about that co-pilot. Everybody's co-pilot in the car model for personality. If you overlay it with Dr. John Beebe's 8-function model, there's a parental energy that comes from the co-pilot that we do on behalf of other people. And we talked a little bit about that for ENFPs. That's introverted feeling or authenticity. And I think one thing I've had this experience as ENFP. This isn't for everyone, but I think some ENFPs have the experience of there's an opportunity to get more judicious on what is someone else's cause or mission in life or crusade, and what is my cause, mission, and crusade in life. And I think because it's got so much parental energy, as ENFPs, we show up and we see somebody excited and cause-based and like really passionate about something. And in a way, we're like, oh, maybe that's kind of mine too. And I think we really want to be supportive and encouraging. And so we're like, oh, I can kind of find that in myself. I find the excitement and the enthusiasm for that thing in me. And then I maybe sometimes mistake that that's my thing, but I'm trying it on. I'm kind of testing it. But sometimes in the middle of testing it, I've made really long-term commitments or deeper commitments than maybe I had wanted to or intended to. Again, this is for me as an ENFP. I think some ENFPs don't struggle with this as much maybe as I do. But there is that, is this mine? Is this someone else's? And I think stopping and getting really clear, showing yourself love to say, actually, I want to make sure I put myself on footing to choose the things that are resonant with me deeply. Not just that I can find in me, because I can find a lot. I can find a lot of things to be passionate about. It's kind of how I move through the world. And I really want to see other people encouraged and performing well and doing well. But then what's actually mine versus others? And I think that discretion is something as an ENFP matures and plays with that energy. I think you get more discreet about knowing, okay, that's not my energy. I'm getting excited about that, but that's that person's cause. Mine is over here. And I think that's where if you're on your mission and your cause and showing your self-love, I think that does open up. You're on that mission to get things like you can really be a closer, right? You can get a lot accomplished because when the going gets tough, you're resolute. You're like, no, I don't care what anyone else feels or thinks. This is true for me. This is resonant with me. This is deep in my motivations and core values. So I think that's some of the work, like in the co-pilot, for example, some ENFPs can do. That got real heavy real quick. I'm like, deep missions.
I mean,
I think that's what we're
I
talking
remember
about.
you first talking about that on the podcast back in the, I mean, that's the reason I was like, yes, I will continue to listen. That's that kind of stuff right there.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can feel it. Even I'm not an ENFP, but I can feel that. I don't know. It's just it's something else, Joel. So
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it in the members room. I got a couple stuff to share.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of which, we do need to prepare the breakout room. So if you're on the Personality Hacker membership and you're brand new, welcome this week. That's a Zoom call behind the scenes here. You can't see it on the open live streams. We got a bunch of people gathered, private Zoom call. We're going to open up breakout rooms here in a moment. 3 to 4 people in a room. What this is intended to do is for you to be able to talk to somebody else and other people, meet some new friends and some new faces. We're going to let the Zoom gods decide who's organized together. But we also can discuss some of what's coming up for us as we watch this clip. Whether you're an ENFP, and those are your preferences, or you're a different type, there's things we can learn and things we can talk about and unpack and explore together. So in these breakout rooms, I want you to talk about the ENFP influences in your life. Talk about, and if it's not a person, again, this isn't a typing, this isn't like our profiler training. We're teaching you how to do profiling and determine someone's best fit type, but use your best judgment. If you feel or know that you have an ENFP in your life, talk about that person's energy, talk about the kind of energy they bring. See if you could tune into that, like cause-based, like jumping on other people's causes versus their own. See if you can tune into that and kind of make some conversation around the energy. Or if you just suspect that energy is maybe represented an entity or a person or an energy or a system in your life, you can also talk about that. And then we're going to come back into the main session, and the live stream will be ended by that. And we can then have a broader conversation where we can all share in the more open format here on Zoom.
And since you might have been invited to this because you have ENFP preferences, and we invited people on our email list to join us this week that had ENFP preferences, what you can talk about are who have been the influences in your life that have helped you become a better version of yourself. Who are the influences that have helped you figure out how you can navigate through life with ENFP preferences.
Yeah. Okay, let's open those rooms. We'll see everybody back here in about 12 minutes, and we'll keep rolling along in our discussion today for Quest here at Personality Hacker Plus membership. See everybody back here in just a few minutes. If you're still on the live stream, welcome. We're glad you're watching. You should be part of this every week. We have this membership that we gather together live on Sundays, 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. We watch a short clip from the Personality Hacker podcast, usually about 12 to 15 minutes, and not the entire episode. And then we go into breakout rooms like you just saw me do. I just put all of our members we just put them into breakout rooms so people can introduce themselves to each other, build some friendships, community, but also talk about some of the concepts from the podcast that week. Then we come back from the breakout room. We share in a broader context. We do a little bit of journaling so people can tune into themselves and what's going on for them, what's coming up in a deeper way. And then we give what's called a personality quest of the week, just something to go and be attuned to in the real world. When you go through your life this week, leading up to the next call next week, what can you pay attention to? What can you learn from? What can you maybe test out or exercise or challenge yourself through? And so we often give one of those we always give one of those at the end of the call for people to go and do. So if you'd like to join us live and be part of this membership, you can do it right now and be part of the membership even today. personalityhacker.com/membership. personalityhacker.com/membership. And that's the best way to join us every week live.
Yeah.
You've been with an ENFP for a while.
I have.
So you know all about the ENFP self-love.
Well, I know about
challenges.
I know about you, right? Every ENFP is a little different. Isn't that the point?
That is true.
Yeah, but I know, but I have observed, man, I think that in the early days of our relationship, because we both have ENP preferences, I think what became clearer and clearer and clearer to me was the difference between introverted feeling and extroverted thinking, that polarity, what we call authenticity effectiveness, and the polarity of introverted thinking and extroverted feeling, or accuracy and harmony. And I think in the beginning of a relationship, like that's all we studied. All we studied was the difference between those two polarities and how, I mean, I don't think I quite understood until they were in the same positions in the car model. And I think I got such an education on that.
It's like compare and contrast, right?
Oh my gosh. It was like, how does that make sense for you? How is that a thing that makes sense for you? And I think there was probably a lot of that going the other direction. But I think that education was pretty important for understanding those judging functions. So yeah, I've very much enjoyed being with my ENFP. Yeah.
Very
educationally good. And for other reasons.
Very good.
Yeah.
I remember there was when I was really working on developing in the car model some of that co-pilot of authenticity. Thank you for grooming me.
Yeah, I can't help it.
It's all good. It was a lot of thrashing, a lot of tears, a lot of thrashing, a lot of frustration, because when you're an extrovert and you're trying to grow, often what you have to do is get more introverted. and stop doing so much. And as an extrovert, that's what we're used to doing. And I'm a very active, extroverted person, right? I've always engaged in the world, but to stop and get in touch with what's going on for me and slow the process down, it felt like I was handicapping myself. Like it felt like I was, like putting weights around my ankles or trying to slow everything down, like incoherently. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I would be frustrated in the growth process, but man, on the other side, I'm so rewarded from it.
Well, I think, and I mean, extroverts in particular, particularly EPs, will probably resonate with this. The big challenge, I think, when one is doing growth in your auxiliary or co-pilot function is how much you have picked up from other people.
Yeah.
How much is not yours, right? For introverted feeling or authenticity, it's like, how many of these values did I just absorb from the people in my life? How much of this identity that I've built around myself is actually not mine? It's like somebody else's that for some reason I feel like I have to keep loyalty or honor. Like how much have I been walking around that isn't me? Right. It's almost like these barnacles hanging around you. And so it is liberating, but like pulling them off. It's like these parts that were never really yours that kind of got grafted to you, but aren't you. When you pull those things apart, there's a pain to it. There's a pain of exorcising. There's a pain of figuring out what actually is you and what isn't. And for introverted thinking or accuracy, it's like, how much have I been believing that actually didn't make any sense to me? I just thought I was supposed to believe that thing. And it can feel real, it can feel like surgery, right? It's like you're surgically removing parts that were never really you, or like now you're trying to amalgamate them. There's like a little bit of that I still believe, but most of it I don't. And so it's very slow work. It's very slow. And as an EP type, you're used to like moving fast and moving quickly and navigating through life, and making choices based on a tactical decision in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's like, okay, well, I'll just know when I get there. But how many decisions have I made tactically in the moment that were not right for me at all because I was carrying with it the wrong information? I was carrying with it the wrong, values or the wrong identity or the wrong beliefs or the wrong, it's like, why did I do that thing? Oh, because somebody else kind of encouraged me at some point a long time ago, and I've been holding on to this.
Yeah.
So, it is. It's a bit grueling. The work is grueling, but like you said, on the other side, everything feels cleaner. It's almost like you got a teeth cleaning, right? And all the plaque is gone, and you're like, oh, okay, now it looks better. Now it looks whiter. Now it's like, that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So stay tuned. Later today, we're going to be broadcasting the entire podcast, the entire ENFP self-love podcast, How to Love Yourself as an ENFP. That's coming out later on YouTube and in other channels as well. If you'd like to join the membership, you should do it. Personality Hacker Plus membership. We'd love to have you part of this. We're also doing deep dives once a month. In the last deep dive that's already loaded up into the membership area, the learning platform, you can go and watch it right now. Antonia led a session about Jungian complexes. That sounds really deep, right? Well, it was. We're talking about the creative process, tuning into the complexes that we all carry. I'll give you a little preview. We make a distinction between the nominalization of complexes and what John Beebe talks about, which is complexities. So you don't have so much static. It's more dynamic. I'll just leave you with that. You probably should go tune in and listen to more.
And complexes relationship to Jungian archetypes.
Yes, it's great. It's really a great deep dive. So you should go check it out if you're a member. If you want to join the membership, again, personalhacker.com/membership. Love to see you here live every week as we take off. All right, we got people coming back from the breakout rooms. We are going to end the live stream. We'll see everybody next week, 11:45, and hopefully inside the membership. Talk soon. Peace.